What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss.
What you want to say to the shopkeeper is, run! Get out of there! What's happening, party people? This is James A. Hurst, internationally tolerated screenwriter and story expert, and welcome to Scene Writing Secrets, the series formerly known as What Makes This Scene Great. In this series, I'm breaking down great scenes in movies and TV strictly from a writing perspective. And in this video, we're gonna break down the classic gas station scene from No Country for Old Men, written by the immortal legends Joel and Ethan Coen, based on the book No Country for Old Men by Cormac McCarthy. Great scenes start with great dialogue, so if you want to up your dialogue game, you want to download my PDF, How to Write Dialogue Like a Buzz. It's available right down there. Click on it and start writing dialogue. You know the rest. Before we check out the scene, here's what you need to know. Anton Chigurh, a hitman who operates by a personal code of fate, stops for gas in rural Texas. The proprietary and ordinary, polite, harmless man makes the mistake of making small talk with fate.
How much?
69 cents.
And the gas.
Y'all getting any rain up your way?
What way would that be?
I seen you was from Dallas.
What business is it of yours? Where I'm from? Friendo.
One of the things I find so fascinating about the scene is that you've got one person who is a predator and you've got another person who is prey. But the person who's prey, the shopkeeper, is really in a different scene than the predator.
I didn't mean nothing by it.
Didn't mean nothing.
Just passing the time. If you don't want to accept that, I don't know what else I can do for you. Will it be something else?
I don't know. Will there?
In the previous video, we looked at the scene with Gary and Michael Corleone in Godfather II, and if you haven't seen my breakdown of that, I will link to it here. Blink. In that scene of quiet menace, of escalating tension, you've got two people who are predatory, if you will, who are aggressive, who are defending their own in a very quiet way. This scene's very different because you've got one person who's an out-and-out predator, and you've got another person who is desperately trying to de-escalate through this entire scene. It can really take the air out of the scene. But the Coen Brothers are such masters, and McCarthy is such a master in terms of creating this unbelievable force that's Anton, is that even though the shopkeeper is draining the tension from the scene, Anton just gooses it up again with a line of pure menace. So notice that throughout the scene, how the proprietor is really trying to bring the tension down, and Anton just keeps goosing it up again.
Is something wrong
With what?
with anything?
Is that what you're asking me? Is there something wrong with anything?
Will there be anything else?
You already asked me that.
Well, I need to see about closing now.
See about closing.
Yes, sir.
What time do you close?
Now, we close now.
Now is not a time. What time do you close?
Generally around dark, at dark.
Nothing kills tension more than someone trying to exit, okay? Tension comes from engaging, comes from batting the ball back over the net, right? And putting a twist on it. And then the other player hits it, puts another twist on it, and it escalates and the volley goes up and up and up. But in this scene, you've got the shopkeeper who is not playing. He is just trying to get out of this scene. So what you're getting effectively is Anton hitting the ball against the wall, okay? Because the shopkeeper's not giving him anything. He's just trying to get out of this scene. And Anton, being kind of pure menace or pure fate, whatever you want to call it, is just taking whatever he's giving him and spinning it into an insult, and an insult with a philosophical bent to it. And that's what you're starting to see come up in this scene. And one of the reasons people obsess over this scene is because this character is putting philosophical or existential, he's adding existential stakes to this scene, which is what gives it such incredible gravitas. Let's keep watching.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
Sir?
I said, you don't know what you're talking about. What time do you go to bed?
Sir?
You're a bit deaf, aren't you? I said, what time do you go to bed?
Somewhere around 9:30. I'd say around 9:30.
I could come back then.
Why would you be coming back? We'll be closed.
Yeah, you said that.
All of us are really ill-equipped to deal with a predator because all of our normal rules of social niceties, especially if you're in a nice small town like this, and used to small talk and chit chat, all those tools are not going to get you out of this. What you want to say to the shopkeeper is, run, get out of there. This guy is sizing you up and is deciding whether he's going to kill you. Or is he? See, we don't exactly know.
Well, I got to close now.
You live in that house out back.
Yes, I do.
You lived here all your life?
This is my wife's father's place originally.
You married into it.
Anton is pure fate, right? He's a force of fate. And I think why he chokes on you married into it is that he feels that the shopkeeper cheated at life. For someone who's pure fate and thinks that, you shouldn't cheat in any way, I think when he says you married into it, there's a part of him that is sickened by that idea.
We lived in Temple, Texas for many years. Raised a family there in Temple. We come out here about 4 years ago.
You married into it.
That's the way you want to put it.
I don't have some way to put it. That's the way it is.
The genius of that plastic unwrapping, right? I mean, how genius is that? You might think that they came up with that on the day, right? You'd think that sort of thing directors come up with on the day. Amazingly, the Coen Brothers are also the writers, scripted it. It's actually in the script that you can download, which goes to show you just what masters. I mean, you're watching masters at the peak of their storytelling and filmmaking prowess.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss?
Sir?
The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
I don't know. I couldn't say.
Call it.
Call it.
Yes.
For what?
Just call it.
We're seeing now how Anton works, right? We're seeing if the shopkeeper is probably just too scared to see it. But we see that Anton is letting the coin decide this person's fate. It's quite powerful, isn't it?
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
You need to call it. I can't call it for you. Well, it wouldn't be fair.
I didn't put nothing up.
Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it.
He is a scalpel, right? And he's letting fate decide, quite truly, whether this man lives or dies. And what I find so interesting is that one of the few resistances the shopkeeper puts up is that he insists very meekly, on playing by the rules of gambling, which is, well, how can I call a coin toss if I don't know what I've put up? And Anton says, you've been putting it up your whole life.
You know what date is on this coin?
No?
1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here. And now it's here. And it's either heads or tails. And you have to say, call it.
Well, look, I need to know what I stand to win.
Everything.
How's that?
You stand to win everything, call it.
This scene is so incredibly powerful and so incredibly intelligent, and yet there's not one fancy word in the whole thing. And that's something that I think a lot of screenwriters can and should aspire to. The scene could so easily be massively pretentious, and yet it is completely grounded and simple and it cuts like a scalpel.
All right. Heads then.
Well done. Don't put it in your pocket.
Sir,
Don't put it in your pocket. It's your lucky quarter.
where you want me to put it?
Anywhere not in your pocket. Or it'll get mixed in with the others and become just a coin. Which it is.
I love that little childlike, well done, that Anton says there. I mean, that's in the performance as well. Of course, Javier Bardem choosing to make this like little kids playing tiddlywink, saying to the other ones, "Oh, good job." You know, it's almost like childlike glee for a second. But I think what's so interesting is we get a little crack, we get a little peek into how Anton looks at the world when he says to him, you know, don't put that coin in. That's your lucky coin. Don't put that in with your other coins, because then it just becomes another coin. But then he punctures that by saying, which it is. That one line is so powerful, and I think sums up the quiet power and menace of this scene. The clerk walks into this moment thinking it's about pocket change, and Anton makes it about his existence. And yes, Anton is one of the most debated characters in all of cinema. Certain people love to argue whether he's fate, chaos, God, or pure nihilism. Good for them. But before you film bro jabronis crawl into my comment box to tell me that I'm completely wrong because of some hair-splitting nuance, save it, because this mother lover don't care. If you leave a comment correcting me about Anton Chigurh, I swear I will not invite you to my birthday party. This is James A. Hurst for Screenright, reminding you you don't need anyone's permission to start creating. Greenlight yourself and start writing the script that writes your future. Be easy, stay awesome, keep writing.